So in this video, I'm going to take you through an understanding of the fearful avoidance emotional triggers. Also, if you're enjoying the content here, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and hit the notification bell because I put out daily videos every single day to help you thrive in your relationships, recondition your subconscious. And if you stick around to the end of this video, we are specifically going to talk about what you can do to overcome some of these triggers as a fearful avoidant attachment style as well. When we think of emotional triggers, I want you to think of them sort of as imprints. So, the subconscious mind is really where your triggers are stored. Have you ever had the experience, for example, of getting really upset about something, but on some level, it's like objectively that someone else wouldn't get that upset about it, or that you're really taking it to heart and kind of objectively, maybe it's not as big of a deal as I'm feeling like it is, and yet I can't help that I feel this way. Well, what that is it's a difference between your conscious mind being able to more objectively observe and your subconscious mind that has core wounds that are deeply stored because of painful past experiences that are unresolved. Now, I'll give you an example about this. Let's say that you move in with your partner and your partner says they'll do the dishes and they don't do the dishes. Okay. And maybe you find yourself reacting like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 to this. And part of you, as you're really reactive, almost it knows, hey, it's the first time they didn't do the dishes. I don't know why this feels so intense for me. Well, because when we're triggered, we're not triggered by the objective content. We're triggered by the way our subconscious mind subjectively interprets that content based on the way our subconscious has been conditioned from past experiences and now sees the world through that lens of those past experiences. So if you're a fearful avoidant attachment style and somebody told you they would do something and then they didn't, chances are it's the meaning or the trigger you have there is feeling maybe betrayed because somebody said something and then they lied or they didn't follow through, maybe disrespected, or maybe you feel unimportant, like, oh, what, I didn't matter enough for you to take your turn doing the dishes. So it's not the dishes that are causing you to be that triggered. It's not that there's a dish with dirt on it in the sink that's causing you to be 8 out of 10 triggered, where you're really, really charged. And maybe you even want to like raise your voice or you feel really upset or shut down. It's not the dirt on the dish that's causing that pain, right? It's that the subjective meaning you interpret it through actually has to do with unresolved traumatic imprints from the past. So if you have a lot of betrayal core wounds, or you have a core wound around feeling unloved or disrespected, which are all common wounds of the fearful avoidant attachment style, then that's what your subconscious mind interprets the experience through. And it essentially is like the lens you're seeing the world through. So you see the dishes not being done through the lens of those core wounds, hence why you then feel really upset. And so that's why I always say to people, like, when you're triggered, whatever someone else is triggered by, that's really their business. Like, if they are 10 out of 10 triggered because they just spilled a glass of water, like for you on the outside looking in, you might be like, hey, it's just water. It's not a big deal. But if they have a really deep core wound of feeling defective, like something's wrong with them, and then they feel all this shame when they spill the water in front of people and they're so humiliated and it's so strong, it just represents how strong a core wound is that they're linking to that experience. So, anyways, what we cover so much inside PDS and on this channel as well is integrated attachment theory. And the way integrated attachment theory really differs from traditional attachment theory is that we talk about core wounds, we talk about needs, emotional patterns. We address these all at the subconscious level of mind because that's where we really need change and healing to happen. And then we also talk about boundaries, communication, and behaviors. And we talk about how to recondition them to become secure. And that's that whole published body of work that we created and copyrighted back in 2019. So you'll see here these major components, okay? The core wound specifically. So hopefully you'll see how the core wound really comes about. But let's say, for example, that you're shamed a lot as a child. Okay. You're told you're bad. Let's say you get disproportionate punishments for things. So maybe you make a small mistake and maybe your parent raises their voice or yells. Or maybe you get shamed, you get told like, hey, what's wrong with you that you would do something so stupid? If you get harsh punishments, harsh language, A really common core wound that's very common for fearful avoidance is the I am bad core wound. And the I am bad core wound, you won't see so visibly. Like, you may not think all the time that you feel like you're a bad person, but you'll see it through the lens of essentially through the lens of always trying to prove your innocence to people. And if you are always trying to prove your innocence or prove that you're a good person or things like that, chances are you have an I am bad core wound. And so in this dynamic, do you see how, like, the I am bad core wound, this like subconscious dormant wound that's there is waiting to be triggered the moment somebody says to you, wow, that wasn't a very nice thing to do. And you feel so bad, right? Or like you have this disproportionate reaction, you're triggered, your emotions are so strong next to the experience because you have unresolved, stored emotional experiences there from the past. Now, the other thing you need to know about how this works is your subconscious mind stores everything. It stores all memories. Now, it consolidates memories over time. There's some evidence to show that your memories can kind of change over time. Like, we can misremember things and kind of, as memories get consolidated, sort of mix things up. But as a general rule, we're storing the vast majority of things. The way I like to think of it as an analogy is that your subconscious is this giant warehouse, and each of those like big memories is sort of like a box. And when you have a core wound, it's a huge box full of stuff. And when we talk about consolidating memories, sometimes people can mix up two boxes, but all of that stuff is still in the warehouse in some form, even if it's a little mixed up. So when you think of a core wound, what's happened is you've got tons of storage around that core wound. You've got tons of stuff in that box. In other words, like the I am bad core wound, maybe you were shamed a lot. Or the other manifestation of how this can come about is when you do have this experience, you feel it really strongly. Okay. So what we're going to cover here for a moment now is I'm going to tell you the major core wounds for the fearful avoidant attachment style. So you can not only understand how core wounds work, but you can also understand, how these core wounds specifically affect a fearful avoidant themselves. So the major core wounds are: number one, I will be betrayed. And this is a huge thing because fearful avoidants often walk on eggshells, and often, like, in their environment, what they're told and then what happens don't line up. So there can be a lot of like let down, sort of like broken promises. There can be lies. There can be walking on eggshells. There can be just feeling like you don't know how your caregivers in your environment are going to behave. And so you don't really trust. And so you assume that you can't really trust. And this will lead to a lot of suspicion or testing behaviors as a fearful avoidant later on. Another huge core wound is I am unsafe. Now, again, fearful avoidance will usually say to me, I don't feel unsafe. I can handle myself. I can take care of myself. But the way you're going to know that you have an I am unsafe core wound is because you overreact to things all the time. So you have disproportionate fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses, which are actually our survival responses when we feel unsafe. So when I say fight response, you may fight a little too hard to defend yourself at times in a way that could be dysregulated. You may have a really strong flight response where you up and leave things really dramatically or like suddenly. You may freeze for long periods of time at times. And then, of course, fawn, your people pleasing response. So again, that's how you'll know that you've got the I am unsafe core wound. I am unworthy. You'll know this because you constantly try to earn your worth. Okay. You're compensating for something, in other words. I am bad, same thing. You'll try to prove your innocence, or you'll be really afraid of people thinking you're a bad person, things of that nature. The I will be abandoned core wound, that is a huge one. I will be trapped. You'll see that the major manifestation of abandonment is pretty obvious. Like, you may feel anxious or clingy. You may also shut down because you're so afraid of feeling abandoned. You don't even want to like feel vulnerable to somebody else. The trapped, you'll constantly trying to like get freedom, and you'll feel really frustrated if you feel trapped. The I am helpless or out of control will often be in the context of relying on others. Fear, big time, of relying on other people fully. Like, imagine that you were fully dependent on another person to take care of you 24/7. If you feel fear in your body around that, you have an I am helpless core wound. And then some other honorable mentions: I am not good enough. I am disrespected. I am unloved. I am weak. Even the I am stupid core wound. And I don't love that word. I feel like it sounds so harsh, but it's just a big core wound for a lot of people. And it usually comes up as like, I will be foolish if I trust this person, or if this person hurts me, I'm going to feel so stupid that they hurt me and that I was vulnerable to them. So it's kind of like foolishness. But it usually comes up as that terminology when we've dug into it with many clients, and also students in PDS. So These are the big core wounds. Now we have to reprogram these because guess what happens? If you have a ton of core wounds, they end up being like mines in a minefield. You are constantly going to be like running into them and stepping on them and they're going to explode. And that's really what a trigger is, right? It's like all that storage in your warehouse. You can imagine there's little mines in those boxes and they easily get set off and explode everywhere. And like that's not what we want. So what we have to do is we have to recondition them. We leverage repetition and emotion, and we have a whole course on this. I'm mindful that this video is already kind of long now, but we have a whole course on this you can check out for free for 7 days. It will give you more than enough time to get through all of the different core wound content. But essentially what it is it's digging into these core wounds, and then it's really seeing that you can divest from them, because if we stop firing and wiring things, they atrophy over time. It's actually how neural pathways work. But number two, when we can invest in the opposite of them and leverage repetition and emotion, it's a huge form of reprogramming. And I much more specifically talk about how that works in the emotional mastery and belief reprogramming course. We talk all about reprogramming these things, and it's really the first major step to feeling less reactive, less frustrated, to seeing things more objectively, not having these really strong fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses, being able to take things at face value and more objectively in relationships, and really being able to feel more calm, settled, and secure on a regular basis. And it's the first major step from an integrated attachment theory point of view to reconditioning your attachment style to become secure. And really after this, it's needs, it's emotional regulation, which is so drilled into just by targeting core wounds. It like helps you regulate your emotions so much. And then it's really learning to communicate, have better boundaries, and then to really just update any old behavioral mechanisms that are sort of not the healthiest coping mechanisms that might be sticking around. And we can really recondition all of these things in our relationship to them at the subconscious level. And it's by targeting those 6 major things that you become securely attached. So after conducting many polls and surveys at the personal development school over the past few years, we have found that students come in and 92% of them become dominantly securely attached within 90 days if they focus on 6 crucial areas. These 6 crucial areas have to do with what it takes to become secure according to Gibson integrated attachment theory. And this is to tackle core wounds, learn your needs, learn to emotionally regulate, develop boundaries, communicate better, and update old behavioral coping mechanisms. Now we have these roadmaps and course tracks laid out for you on the other side of when you join. So everything is simple and in front of you to help you take exactly the steps that you need to master your love life, create thriving relationships, and really see the results in your healing journey so you can let go of old wounds, old baggage, and truly leave it behind. And on top of that, included in this 30% off promotion for life, you also gain access to our daily live events, webinars. I'll be there 3 days a week to answer any questions that you have in your journey. And we have amazing certified integrated attachment theory experts who are there to support you with their daily live events and webinars Monday through Saturday. And this is a great opportunity to connect with like-minded people, to get your questions answered, and receive any extra bonus support that you need. And last but not least, we even have social events on a daily basis. So you can practice through a sharing circle, being a little bit more vulnerable, connecting with other like-minded people. You can practice through communication scripts, having tough conversations, and really modeling that out. And there are so many other supportive events that are there for you on your journey. So I would love for you to join and take this opportunity. I would love for you to be part of this challenge to become securely attached within that 90-day period. And I can't wait to see you on the other side. So I hope this makes a whole lot of sense. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in future videos.